So in this lesson, the objective is I can write and solve equations in a word by using a verbal models. Okay, so we're gonna have a lot of verbal models, and we need to write it down an equation and solve them. So this is the today's lesson, and so there is a then and exit ticket, and there is a one assignment called S2, creating equations using a verbal models. Okay, so let's take a look on the next slide. So in this slide, I put the steps that you can follow whenever you see word problem. So step number one, when you read the word problem, always identify what is your unknown thing, what is not known, what is not given, what do you need to figure out. So that's your unknown thing. And most of the time that will be your variable. And the step number two, it's very helpful if you write it down the verbal model, it helps you to create an equation, okay? And then translate the equation in a mathematical way, or the way that the equation looks like in math. And the last thing is solving or finding the missing thing. So whatever is unknown thing, so you need to figure out that one. If you take a look at this example, it says Amani had 25 points on the second quiz. So there is a that means there is a number of quizzes, and that was 8 more points than she had on first quiz. Okay. And how many points did she have in the first quiz? So the question is, this is the unknown thing. How many points she got it on the first quiz? So let's say they already did the first step. It says, let X is the number of points on the first quiz. Okay. So if the first quiz, I'm going to first cube, it's equal X. So what is your second quiz? In order to do this, it says on the second quiz, she got a 25 point. They already told us. And so that 25 point, it's 8 more points than she got it on the first quiz. So that 25, it's equal, because if she got X points on the first quiz, so it's 8 point more than first quiz, okay? So your equation will become 25 is equal X plus 8, all right? And that is, it looks like B, here we go. Or if you subtract 8 on the both sides, it's also the answer is C, because it's another way to rewrite that equation differently, okay? So this is question number one. And the question number two, we're gonna follow the same steps. First, we need to identify what is not known, unknown thing. A golfer hit 2 shots for a total of 375 yards. Okay. Whenever you see a term, it says total of, so that would be it's your equal to 375. Okay. And her first shot was 240 yards. How far was her second shot? So again, it's the same thing. So first is equal 240, and second shot is equal how many distance? So we don't know it. Because of that, they already identified what variable we need to use. Let's say S is equal the length of the second shot. So it's equal S. So by using first and second shot, we need to come up an equation. And we need to use the first one. It says the golfer hit 2 shots, and together the person got it 375 yards. Okay, so that means if you add them together, 240 plus S, that is equal 375. This is my equation. So which one looks like the same thing? I think it's A. Okay, and that's it. The other one are different. So on the next problem, let's take a look at this one. They already did the step number one for us, because it says let be the cost of each balloon, and a dozen balloons cost $3.50, $3.50. Okay, so we know a dozen is equal 12 pieces, right? So that means if 12 pieces costs $3.50, how much each piece will cost? So how you can come up with that equation? So they already said the B is the cost of each balloon. So let's say if the cost of each balloon is B, to find out 12 pieces, so you just need to multiply it by 12, or adding B 12 times by itself. So it's the same thing with 12B. Okay, and totally it costs $3.50. Okay, and then this is the equation number one, and that looks like it's C. And the other thing, if you know like a one-step equation, if you divide both sides by 12, right, to isolate the B, the 12s are cancelled out, so B equal 3.50 divided by 12, which is also A. So both of them are correct in this case. Okay, let's take a look on the next example. So this time they didn't do us the step number one, identifying unknown thing. If you read the sentence like one at a time, it says, Sir Ron has 48 less than Elias. Looks like there are two persons, Ron and Elias. So let me first identify the variable. There is a Ron and there is a Elias. So do we know what is Elias has? Elias has 115. So it's 115. And the second sentence, it says Elias has 115. But Sir Ron has 48 less than Elias. So so we need to subtract 48 then from Elias's money. So that means 115 subtract 48. So the meaning of less than, it's a subtracting. How much does Sir Ron have? So you just need to do the subtraction to figure out how much Ron will have. Okay, so that would become, it's 7 and 67. Okay. So the second problem, it says the consultant charges, so it's a subtract, charges $80 an hour. So per hour, consultant is getting $80. How many did hours did consultant work to make $53,000 and $400? Okay, so we don't know how many hours, so that become H. So let H is equal the number of hours the consultant has to work. Okay, so if that consultant charging like $80 per hour, if you multiply 80 with the number of hours, you will get the total amount of money that she needs to earn, or the number that they are asking us. So $53,400. Okay, it's a one-step equation to figure out per hour or the number of hours. So you just need to divide both sides by 80. Okay, so 80s are cancelled out, and H will become, if you use your calculator, I'll try to do it in my head. Within a 53, there are 6, it's a 48, and it's a 54. Within a 54, there are, is there any? Seven is 56, so it's a 6. It's around, like, it's not exactly, it's around 66 hours that the consultant has to work, the decimal number. Okay, and this is a redo part. In this part, let me explain this again. So I found this problem, there is a typo issue because it's a clean oven, so it's a bit of confusing, this part. So Matt spent half of his weekly allowance playing arcade games. So let's say that Matt's weekly allowance is, let's say, with A amount of money. So she spent half of them. That means you need to divide by 2. So this is step number 1. Let's read the second one. To earn more money, his parents let him like earn like for doing a job in the house to clean the oven. Then the parents are giving $4.20. Okay. So if Matt is spent half of his allowance, that means half of his other money is still existed, right? He still has it. So if you add the money that he's earning from cleaning the oven, and the last thing is, what is his weekly allowance? That means what is the A is equal? If he ended with, or if he has at the end, after these two actions, $7.90. Okay, so this is the come up with equation. Then follow the two-step equations. So, but that's not our case right now. Okay, let's take a look at the second example, another example. Gabriel sold half of his comic books is selling half of his comic books. We don't know the number of comic books. So that means, let's say C is equal the number of books, the comic books. Okay. In that case, if he's selling half of them, that means it's a C divided by 2. Then bought 19 more. So that means you're adding 19. Okay. And she now has 40. So that means it's equal to 40. The question is, with how many did she begin? So that means what is the number of books is equal. We need to figure out what is C. So to do this, it's a two-step equation. And we're not going to touch the variable term. Because of 19 is added, we need to subtract 19 from both sides. Okay, so 19s are cancelled out and bring it down the variable term. And that is equal to 21, right? And the last thing is, because of the variable C is divided by 2, you always have to do the opposite of divide by 2. That means you're multiplying with the same number. So by 2, okay? And so 2's are canceled out, and the C would become 42 books. So she started before do the selling 42 books, the number of books, okay? In the next example, Mark won 57 lollipops playing basketball in the country fair. Okay, so that means totally he won 57. At school, he gave 2 to every student in math class. But there is a one thing is unknown things. That's the number one. The number of students. Let's say S is equal number of students. Okay. And if he's giving 2 to every student, that means you have 57 and you're subtracting the number of students. If you just subtract S, that means you're giving only 1 lollipop to every student. If you multiply that S with 2, because he gave 2 to every student, that means that's why you need to say 2S. Okay. And the last thing is he only has 1 remaining at the end. So remaining is 1 when you do the subtraction. To solve this problem, you're going to follow the same two-step equation. You're not going to touch the variable term, 2S. Think about the 57. It's a positive 57. So because of that, you need to subtract 57 from both sides. Okay? And clear out. 57s are canceled out this time because 57 minus 57 becomes 0. And bring it down to 2S with the negative sign that comes in front of it. Okay? Always include the sign in front of it if there is a negative. And 1 minus 57, that is negative 56. Okay? The last step you got to do is see what number is multiplied with S. It's negative 2. So because of that, you need to divide by with the same number, with negative 2. Include the negative. And do the same thing on the other side of the equal sign. So negative 2's are canceled out now. Only variable S left. And we know the fact that, like, when there is a 2 negative sign in the division, if there is a 2 negative sign, they become positive. So half of 56, that would become 28. Okay? And let's take a look at another example. So let's say this is the last one, okay? Because we have more. You had $22.60 to spend on 4 pens. So let's say there is a pence that we don't know. Let's say P is the price, or let's say unit price for pen. So we need to figure out, the question is, how much did each pen cost? So that's the question. So that's why we need to figure out what is P is equal, or the unit price for each pen. Okay. So he's buying, let's say you're buying 4 pens. That means you're buying 4P. And in total, oh, hold on. It says after buying them, you had $10.60. So you have, let me start over this. It's a bit of confusing. Let's go step by step. So it says you had $22.60, so 22.60, okay? And you spent, because of that, you're subtracting 4 pence, so 4p. And after buying them, you had, so that means the remaining balance, it's a 10.60, okay? This is the equation. Now let's do the two-step, solving this equation with 2 steps. So we're not going to touch the variable term, and be careful, there is a negative sign in front of it. So we need to be careful on the next step. And because of the 22 is positive, so you need to subtract 22.60 on the both side of the equal sign. Okay? And that would become, these are cancel out. So bringing down the variable term, including the negative sign in front, and subtraction will become, if you use your calculator, 10 minus 22, that is negative 12. Okay? So the last step is, take a look what number you have in front of the variable. And that is negative 4. So divide with the same number on the both sides of the equal sign. So negative 4s are cancel out. 2 negatives are becomes positive, and p is equal to 12 divided by 4, and that is equal to 3. So that means you bought 3 pencils in this case.